Welcome to the official podcast of Cardinals Nation 24/7. Each week, we put a unique perspective on bringing you the latest news, updates, and rumors of the St. Louis Cardinals baseball organization. Join the nation and stay informed by liking us on Facebook, following us on Twitter, subscribing to us on the podcast form of your choice, and most of all, by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Thank you all for supporting the nation. Let's get things started. Here are your hosts, Jared Redwine, Chris Lawless, and Larry Cox. Hello, Cardinals Nation, and welcome to another episode of the Cardinals Nation 24/7 video podcast. Thank you for joining us once again, and we want to thank all of you that tuned in for our live show on Monday, Conversation with the Nation, where we had Brad Kell from Art City Media, JP Maxwell from the Midmo Sports Show, ESPN 107.3 FM out of Rolla, and Hayden C., the founder of STL Sports Central. Gentlemen, my friends, it's good to see you this evening. How is everyone?
Good.
Doing good.
Today we're going to jump in and talk about the other teams in the National League Central and cover some of the recent happenings in spring training. Kind of give everyone a little inside background onto what we have to look forward to in 2021. First of all, gentlemen, saw the news today, which we figured it was coming. Miles Mikolas is going to be evaluated. I just saw that about an hour and 20 minutes ago. His creaky shoulder appears to be creakier than we thought. Little WD-40 is not going to be able to fix it. We were kind of thinking he wasn't going to make the opening day roster anyways, so this has to open up an extra spot for a bullpen arm, which the rotation has been a little shaky so far. To begin with, Chris, your thoughts on Miles not being ready for opening day?
Well, it definitely sucks to hear that he's, not going to make opening day spot. I know we talked a bunch in prior episodes about our wanting Alex Reyes to get a shot, but an article just came out where the Cardinals are kind of wanting to limit his innings, so he's kind of out as far as being a candidate for that starter position. It may look like a Ponce de Leon or a Gant does take that spot. It sucks to hear it. I know they like to cite on there a caution, and better safe than sorry. Hopefully he heals up and it's not anything major, but if it is, then it's going to be a lot of relying on the young arms going forward.
Yeah, I wanted to see the Reyes experiment do a little more, go a little deeper into the games as well, but I don't think that's going to happen either. He did have a good appearance today. He did strike out to the side. He allowed a couple of hits, but he was able to work around it. But he's a solid bullpen piece either way, and he could probably go a couple innings if needed to be, but I did see where they're going to go 100-plus innings with him. Joining us also is from Cardinals Nation 24/7 is Matt Devine. He was able to make it on this evening. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
I was going to ask you too, Matt. Who do you think, with Mikolas being out of the starting rotation, you got to figure Martinez is a shoe-in. Who would you think the Cardinals would pick to be the fifth starter if you were making out the lineup card and had to pick?
I think it opens it up for Gant. I mean, that's who I'd put in there probably. I think he deserves a shot at starting, and I just haven't seen him much this year, but I've liked what I've seen.
Yeah, I agree with you. Gant's been pretty solid.
Him or Ponce in that order, probably.
Yeah, I would say that would be my guess too. Is those guys are going to be your fifth option. I figure Carlos is going to get in, and he had a solid outing today, so I kind of figured choose him in. Larry, you pretty much in agreement with the other guys?
Yeah, I am. I think Carlos had a good outing today. I'm like you. I agree. I wish Reyes would have got a better shot at it. I'm excited for the kid. So,
yeah, just solidifies in their bullpen spot, and they're gonna have to try to figure out what's going to be going on the back end of the bullpen as far as those middle innings. I mean, I figured the late guys, they kind of figured out maybe this opens up a spot for Cabrera to throw another lefty and someone that can provide some multiple inning relief in case they get into trouble with somebody like Ponce or Gant, who's not used to going 6-7 innings, so might free up a spot for one of those guys. So let's move on and let's go to Matt Carpenter. He's still over after today. When does the Matt Carpenter experiment end, or do you think it doesn't? It just goes on until June, July? but they're definitely trying to give him at bats. Chris, your thoughts on Carp and how long this goes?
Well, I think as long as spring training, if he keeps doing this, I'm sure they're going to give him every opportunity to get out of the slump. But if this transitions into the season, I can't imagine them not having a short leash on him. I mean, I do understand the money tied up in it. I do understand he's a longtime Cardinal that you would hate to just cut and part ways with. But at some point, you've got to hit to be on the field, and he's already battling for a position to be maybe platooning some second base. But if his bat is that cold, you're detrimental to the team to even carry him as a bench bat. Because what good are you bringing the team if you're coming off the bench and looking at strikes? He's going to have to do something. I don't know if he's going to have to tighten those batting gloves up, put the damn pair on first, do something. But yeah, it's kind of sad. You hate to see it.
Yeah, on a side note, he has looked fairly decent defensively. He had another diving play today that he made to get out of an inning, and he had one a few games ago. So he's looked decent in his time at second base. One thing I've been a little concerned with is I haven't seen Tommy Edman play as much as I would like, and you would think if that guy's going to be your go-to second baseman, that you would see him getting a few more at bats. Kinsner was in at DH today, and you don't obviously want to see someone like Carp take a roster spot away from someone that is playing well, like a Lane Thomas or someone. Matt, what do you think? How do you think as far as Carpenter, and how long do you try this experiment out? Do you give him the spring, or do you let him go into the season and see what happens?
I think he struggles through spring training, and he still goes through April, and he's in the same funk. I think they've got to figure something out. I would almost hope that they just figure out a long-term DL solution so they can both sides just ride it out. Get somebody up here who can help. This is part of the reason I've been kind of concerned about second base, even though we got the two players there, and everybody's high on Edmund, but he's a kid, and this is kind of a first time deal for him. So, but yeah, if he doesn't turn it around, I would say beginning of May they're going to have to start looking at different options.
Yeah, Edmund looked really good 2 years ago when he got called up, but then last year you could kind of tell maybe playing a full season started to weigh on him a little bit. He started making a couple of defensive errors, but that's a given. We always figure they're going to have their slump after they come in all hot and heavy. Larry, what do you think? I know you're a big Matt Carpenter fan. You would rather see him play first instead of Goldschmidt. That's what you texted us about 10 minutes ago. Yeah.
Like you said,
now, what are your thoughts? You think they're going to ride this?
He's actually looked good in the field, like you said. I could see, like when Johnny Peralta, when he struggled through spring training that year, they started finding injuries for him. They sat him out. The bad back or something could happen. Maybe let him regroup, give him some time down in that, But again, the problem's going to be is what do you do with him for a month? There's no spring train or there's no extended minor leagues or anything for a month. So what are you going to do with him? Send him to the alternate site for a month if something happens? Because unfortunately, Sosa has looked good. I mean, Sosa's really made most of his spring. So now you're telling Sosa he's not going to play for a guy that's batting, 0 for 13, 0 for 14 now? So that's the thing. I could see, like Matt said, let's see what happens in April against live pitching. Maybe that's the difference. He gets, against the more competitive pitching. If he doesn't hit, then they part ways, maybe a buyout of his contract. I don't know. I mean, I really don't know if there's a buyout clause allowed in Major League Baseball or he pay full salary. But they could also extend it out, do a Matt Holliday thing where they extend it out. So
he would get paid his full salary if they released him. And then if he went to another team, they could sign him at the league minimum. So he would technically make more if he went to another team. But which could be the case, as happened. As we mentioned that yesterday too, Chris, with like Greg Holland and Johnny Peralta, and those guys got cut in their final years. I think it'll be harder to cut someone like a Matt Carpenter because of the time he's put on the team. And fans currently with, Matt Carpenter, they either love him or they hate him currently. People want to see him get a chance or people don't want him out there. But you've got guys, Justin Williams. Again, we're talking about if he has options or not. Lane Thomas and Tyler O'Neill have been your top two hitters on the team. Williams looked really good again today. Austin Dean has been pretty solid. So, I mean, it's kind of tough in this situation. Like Larry said, too, you have Sosa. And Some of the other guys are playing well. It's kind of hard to justify. Hey, we're going to take Carp with us. He's 0 for 25 in the spring, but we're going to let him play. I mean, and him being a major leaguer and being on a major league contract and being out of options, obviously has a preference. But you don't want to be a morale killer when you've got all these young guys you're trying to groom and get them to play into a position, and then they compete and they play for one, and then you tell them, hey, guess what? You're not gonna make it. So who do you think, Chris? I want to ask you too. So you've got, probably Gant. You think this opens up a spot for someone like Cabrera in the bullpen with Miles not being ready at the beginning of the season? We talked he might be on the bump of short list of guys that are out.
Yeah, I mean, with Cabrera being a lefty, I know you've got Webb and Miller as the lefties in the pen, and Cabrera can be stretched out to start. Um, it's I don't know. I don't think he gets the nod over a Ponce or a Gant. Um, Inexperience plays into some of that. He has looked good when he has had opportunity to start, but I think just having that weapon in the pen that can go multiple innings, because I don't see Miller as a three batter minimum type of pitcher, and Webb could maybe give you a couple innings, but Cabrera, he's probably more valuable in that long relief role where he could spot start, but also give you two or three
Yeah,
consistently.
I think it opens up a battle for guys like Cabrera, Johan Oviedo, and then even Quizada to get a chance to make the team. Big, strong guys that can go multiple innings, have a little bit of insurance in the bullpen if you need a guy to go 2-3 innings more than once or twice a week. So now we'll get into, I guess we'll start with reviewing the other teams in the competition, National League Central. Um, Anybody want to take it away and jump out there first?
Go ahead, Larry.
Okay. I had the Milwaukee Brewers. So the biggest offseason for them move wise is they parted ways with Ryan Braun. He is now deciding whether or not he wants to retire or not. They haven't decided. They also parted ways with Anderson. Of course, we all know the biggest addition from our standpoint would be Colton Wong. So the Milwaukee overall, they just continue to reload the bats. Their pitching has pretty much remained the same as in previous years. They're not really, I mean, we all know what the killer is from them is they have the killer bullpen. We all know that. They've used strategy in the past, the openers, the middle relief guys. They played different positions for their pitchers just to get them innings or get the matchups they want. So that you got to give that credit to the management staff and over there. But there's different, they continue to just reload from their standpoint. It's always about the bats. It seems like they moved their second baseman. Now will play their third baseman, and that is Luis Urias. Yeah. So he now slides over and he'll be their third baseman this year so far. But they're just like everybody else. They're still their roster still in influx, waiting on that person to step up. Christian Yelich hit his first home run today in their spring training game. Of course, he should be back healthy from last year and the injury the year before. So, the home and away splits are the biggest thing with the Brewers we always see. For some reason, those guys don't seem to hit home runs away from their home park. I don't know why. It just seems kind of strange to me, but it is. But again, they always seem like they're the Cardinal killers, it seems like, at the beginning of the year. But as the season progresses, it seems like they kind of run out of gas, or just the opposite. They pick up steam toward the end and they have a slow start. Which Brewers will we see? I mean, that's going to be the biggest thing.
Yeah, his name, that Japanese guy, Keston, I had to look it up. Huria, he's going to play first.
Our friend Jed Jerko he was released as well. So they had a lot of releases from big bats. But the biggest thing is we know, I mean, they play solid defense. They're probably one of the best defensive outfielders with hitting. Stress the hitting part.
Yeah, you were right though for Urias because there's Luis Urias. He is. I think they are saying he is going to play third. Keston's going to play first because Jerko's gone, and
yep,
their outfield looks pretty good. I mean, they got Jackie Bradley Jr. You got to think Yelich is going to
Bradley. Yeah, they've added Bradley. That's the one I forgot. Yeah. So,
and you think Yelich is going to have a good year, and then you've got Lorenzo Cain coming back, who opted out last year. Who's a Gold Glove defender. I mean, their outfield's going to be pretty stacked. And I think they have who they have. Avasi Garcia, and they've got
Yeah,
him.
Garcia. Mm-hmm.
Vogelbach will play backup first base, but he's not going to be a starting first
No.
baseman by any. Yeah, Garcia, and they have Derek Fisher, so their outfield's pretty stacked. And I'm just cheating by looking at my phone here now.
Omar Navarez, he played their catcher last year. He hit 176 last year, but he's a pretty good defensive catcher as well. So, and he calls a good game.
Yeah, their pitching is always kind of in the middle for some reason too. What I don't like about Milwaukee is we play them good or they shut us down. You know, they get guys like Brett Anderson, Woodruff is a stud, and well, like you said, the bullpen too is key for them with Hader, and then Devin Williams is a pretty solid player too. So I think Lindblom, they've got some good guys that are pretty good that they've brought in.
Yeah, that 1-2 punch in the closer role with Williams and Hader, that's pretty filthy. I mean, if they can keep a game close enough to go in with a lead, that's pretty much a lights out 1-2 punch.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the prediction people had it right. I think the Brewers are probably going to be our best competition in the division, but the other teams aren't anyone to sleep on. Matt, you had the Pittsburgh Pirates. Did you want to? We can all
Sure.
jump into them if you want.
It's pretty easy. They're a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Bob Netting, the owner, in 2019, he tried to turn everything around and hired Ben Sherrington, the guy that had been GM for Boston, who done a pretty good job. He had 2015 World Series run with them, I think. So
Yeah.
he hired him, and he was real vocal from the beginning. He said, this team doesn't evaluate talent well, and we don't develop talent well. So it was kind of brutally honest. And then he went to clean house, so he's got a lot of the scouts left. He's got new scouts. He hired Oz Campo, who used to be in the front office at St. Louis back in like 2009, 2007, in that era. But then Steve Sanders from the Blue Jays, they hired him. So they got some good front office guys now that are kind of taking over those roles of developing talent and evaluating talent, because they've had since they've been tanking, which is to me that when they first got rid of Marte, it's pretty obvious what they were doing.
Yeah.
That they started going into that mode, and it just got worse and worse. And then Josh Bell sealed it off, and then Italian and Musgrove. That was just
Whenever they gave up on Josh Bellerly and traded him to the Nationals, I thought, well, damn, he was their main guy that looked really good and was a guy that could really crush the ball last year, and they traded him to the Nationals. So
yeah, absolutely. But it's right now the Jolly Rogers is on the bottom of the ocean, and it's going to take a few years to get it in a dry dock, probably a good 4 or 5. I mean, there's some people that are saying they could actually be a potential threat in 2024, and I don't see that. I see 2025 at the earliest that they can be competitive again. So the big question to me is, will they lose over 100 games? And it wouldn't be a bit if they lost 3, just like
I think that's a good question too. I think normally, yeah, they probably would lose a lot of games, but the division, I don't think the division is that strong. I think we're lucky that the division didn't get that grade, because the Cardinals, I think, are lacking in pitching. But it's had to be a Pirates fan, man.
I would say that it would be in the 90 game range until they gave up Italian and Musgrove. They just kind of get pitching. They have nobody to step in there. They have a big star, third base in Hayes, and he's going to be a legitimate player. He's going to, but he's also a rookie, and they're putting a lot on his shoulders right now. They're batting third in spring training. The guy, well, he's not a rookie. He's played, last season, but he's kind of a 5-tool guy. But he's the only guy, whenever I look at this lineup, he's the only guy, if I was running a 10-league fantasy team, that I would have on my roster. The rest would probably be free agents. It's
So are you keeping an eye on him since you're in the 16 team fantasy league?
There's the secrets out.
Moran, who got pushed over to first, and he's like a really, really poor almost a homeless man's Justin Turner.
Yeah.
He's,
Oh,
he,
he's
he
been
can,
pretty solid. Yeah.
yeah, but he's nothing that's going to wow you.
No,
And,
no.
and in the outfield, you got Blanco, who, to me is a bust. They talked the guy up so much, and whenever he was playing with Marte and those guys, he had more protection around him. He did a little better, but he's not a leader on this team either. So, you just got a bunch of quadruple A players, with a few potential stars. Stalling, is a good catcher.
Yeah.
Give him that. But when you really, when it really gets horrible is when you look at their starting rotation. I mean, this rotation is going to scare absolutely no one. You got Mitch Keller, Chad Poole, Steve Brault, Tyler Anderson, which was the only player that actually went out and signed for $2.5 million, and then JT Brubaker. I mean, none of those guys are going to scare anyone. And as closer, they still got Richard Rodriguez, Kyle Crick, Chris Stanton. But again, there's nobody there that's going to scare anything.
Yeah, and Polanco's their longtime Pirate veteran, and just looking at the numbers, he's only 29. I feel like that guy's been in the league for 12 years. And I think I agree with you too. He is, you would have to consider him to be a bust. I think a guy like him is only better if you have people around him like, McCutcheon and Marte and those type of guys that kind of take focus off him. But he's nobody you can throw the team on his back and expect him to do any serious damage with.
Or not. It seems to me like he kind of collapses when that's put on him too.
Yeah.
The sad part about it is that Pittsburgh has probably one of the best stadiums in all of Major League Baseball. Their fans are fanatics, and they love their game, and it's an embarrassment to them. Their AAA affiliate is in Indianapolis, the Indians, and that's another one of the greatest ballparks in minor leagues. And you go there $5, you see those AAA kids play, and you see how good they are over there, and then they get to Pittsburgh, and it's like, oh, let's ship this guy for nobody to this guy or this guy, and you're like, who evaluates their, what system are they using?
Yeah.
Well, the tough part about it is too, a lot of people, we see it every day, people complaining in the group about, the Cardinals, but you could always be a Pirates fan. And I think one reason they deal these guys away is because they know they're not going to be able to retain them. So they're trying to, they're not going to be able to pay for them. So they try to ship them out and try to get something in return. And, they're kind of one of those teams that are on that cycle, and you see a lot of good players that were Pirates that go somewhere else and turn out to be well. Adam Frazier is their second baseman. I think he's fairly decent along with Colin Moran, but like, Matt said, none of them are anybody you're going to, you're not going to hitch your horse up to it and ride it to town.
It's scary.
Didn't they trade Austin Meadows and, for Chris Archer, they give up Meadows and Glass now to the Rays, and then Archer's back with the Rays, so that was a total bust.
Yeah, and he was kind of a bust for them. I mean, he really didn't do much for the Pirates.
Right. Their front office is ranked worst out of all 30 teams.
Yeah, they all want to be like Billy Beane. They all want to save that dollar, and they all think they can make those moves, and they just don't have a strategy in place to even do it. I mean, we look at teams, like the Kansas City Royals, they're on the upswing, especially compared to the Pirates dumpster fire, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the one thing I admire is, Charrington coming in and saying, and this was kind of, after the rebuild had started, the tanking, and, said, we can't evaluate talent. We can't develop talent. Well, tanking isn't going to work, if you don't have either one of those qualities. So, at least he's maybe put some people in the right position that they could be back in the mix in 2025. I don't know. But it depends on how these young kids that they were trading for pan out,
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to. It's always easy to play armchair general manager and try to evaluate talent after the trade's already done.
Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah. You pretty much good with that assessment on the Pirates, Chris. I mean, you pretty much, they're bottom of the Central. You got to think.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I did the Cardinal cuts and give my predictions, I've got them at a 60 win, 102 losses. I think they do break that 100 loss threshold, and they'll be lucky to win those 60 games. I mean, they are a team that somehow pulls it out. And I know they've kind of bit us in the past on games where we should have beaten them, but I don't know. They just don't have the talent. Losing Bell's going to hurt them a lot. They just don't really have any kind of an offensive threat. Pitching wise, nothing like Matt said that scares you or wows you. Definitely bottom feeders. So that's the one team in the Central that I have no concern about really giving us any position.
I have 103 losses. I'm going kind of strong on that, but
we'll see which one of you guys is right. We're going to remember this day, and I'm going to write it down. It's 102.
Why don't you record it? Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, we're going to mark this episode down. Wait and see. Kevin, next, we'll save the best for last, Chris. I'll head jump in. I had the Cincinnati Reds. Obviously, their biggest loss of the year, gentlemen, was Trevor Bauer, Cy Young Award winner, signing with the Dodgers. We all saw that was going to happen, and the Reds had no chance of re-signing him to the contract he was looking for, or even a normal contract. But they did get a compensation pick because they made a qualifying offer. So at least the Reds got something out of the deal. Rafael Iglesias, who was basically one of the guys who was doing a lot of closing for them, they traded him to the Angels. They got a couple relievers back, but nothing to really shake a stick at, in my opinion. Archie Bradley, he's out. He left via free agency to the Phillies. They had brought him in. He was closing down some games. Brandon Bailey, who's a pretty good starting pitcher for them, he's going to be out. He's about to have a second Tommy John surgery after they acquired him in November, so that's something they weren't really expecting to happen. But they did say that they're going to make Nick Senzel their primary center fielder this year. He was a pretty good rookie last year. I had him on my fantasy team, so I was pretty familiar with him, but he performed well off and on. He's also plays the keystone a little bit, plays a little second base. So they've kind of named him. They're kind of like Milwaukee, in my opinion, as far as how their team is configured, because they do have some decent outfield depth. They've got Akiyama Winkler, who they just went through arbitration with, who's staying on, and obviously Castellanos, who is, the last couple of years maybe been one of the hottest players that we've seen, and he's always done well against St. Louis. And they may have, and I'm not trying to throw shade at Arenado, but they probably have a top 5 third baseman in the game with Eugenio Suarez at third base. He's a stud over there, along with Jose Ramirez for the Indians and Arenado. And he's in Rendon for the Angels. You got to figure he's one of the top guys. The only thing they really have some weakness is maybe shortstop, and they've toyed with the idea of moving Suarez too short and then putting Moustakas, who is still with the Reds, over at third, his natural position, and freeing up second base. So that could be one route they go, but they've got some competition for a couple of spots. You've got Joey Votto at first base still, who has slacked off the last couple of years, but he's been crushing it this far in spring training. Take that with a grain of salt, because we all know that doesn't always correlate to regular season, but it's kind of nice as a baseball fan to see Votto, do well and come out kind of hot, because I've always liked him, and he's been kind of that last main consistent guy that's been in the Central Division. He's kind of a figurehead of that team and the division. You used to have Prince Fielder in Milwaukee, and you had, him at in Cincinnati, and Albert in St. Louis, and Votto's the last one remaining so far. So let's see, going else. Who did they acquire? They got Sean Doolittle in free agency, so you got to figure he's probably going to be competing for some saves. He was prior with the Nationals, but is obviously looking for a rebound year. He did not perform very well last year. Noel Ramirez, who they got in the Angels trade, he's supposed to be a middle reliever type guy. They signed Cam Bedrosian, who I'm familiar with. He was an Angels middle reliever, just kind of middle of the road type of guy. And they D. Strange Gordon, who is the former D. Gordon, who spent time in Miami and Seattle. And they're talking about he will just be in the outfield, but maybe if they do some shuffling around, he could play second base. I don't really know how that competition's going. But the Reds were at Yoenis Cespedes' workout earlier. I think last week. They were one of a few teams that went to go watch him perform. I don't know where they would put him with a crowded outfield. Maybe it's one of those teams hoping the DH spot opens up. But just going here and look at their pitchers, I'm kind of like Matt was with the Pirates. None of their They have a couple of decent starting pitchers, but none of it really scares you a whole lot. They got Luis Castillo, who's always been pretty solid. Uh, and again, I know him. That's why I kind of like the fantasy league that we're in, because we do a lot of teams, so we have to go out and draft a lot of people. It kind of keeps you up to date on everyone. But I've had Castillo a couple of years ago. They've got Amir Garrett, who fought the whole Pirates team one time by himself out of the bullpen. He's pretty solid. Sonny Gray, his star's fallen off the last couple of years, but still a good middle of the rotation type guy. Tyler Molly, Michael Lorenzen, Lucas Sims is still in the bullpen. He's been pretty good. And behind the plate, they still have Tucker Barnhart, which has come along really strong the last couple of years, and I believe even beat Yachty out for a Gold Glove recently that everybody was real thrilled about. Moustakis, Moose has always been someone that you have to pay close attention to because he's good with the bat. His bat is better than his feet. They do have Max Schrock, who was a former Cardinal farmhand that we released and was picked up by the Cubs, and the Cubs released him, and he was picked up by the Reds. And they have Aquino, who's another outfield option who isn't too good defensively, but can definitely crush the ball. He's got some serious power. So that's my roundup report on the Reds. They're kind of stand pat. I mean, obviously losing Trevor Bauer is huge for them. I think they're gonna be a little bit better than people give them credit for too. It just depends on if it clicks. A lot of it's going to be based around Votto. He's a Pujols type player. If Votto has a good year, then the team will play better because it's going to make Eugenio Suarez and some of these guys, Castellanos, if he plays like he has before. I mean, it's the Reds team is a team I don't think they're going to win the division, but I think they can get hot and put some pressure on some guys. With Votto swinging hot, Castellanos, Suarez, those are good 3, 4, 5 guys right there. If Nick Senzel plays well, being his second year in the big leagues, he's a highly rated prospect. He could hit number 2 in front of Votto. So, I mean, they've got some options. The rotation is going to be weak, and I think the top end of that bullpen in the middle is going to be a little tough. They've got a couple of guys that can come in and pitch well. But if you have a guy like Sean Doolittle that comes out and plays well too, and he's closing games and he's back to old form, a lot of it's going to be what ifs, just like it is with everybody. But there's some potential there. Not going to win the division. I think they fall behind the Brewers. But with the Pirates being around, I think everybody gets some easy wins.
Again, it comes down to them. They build their strength at their ballpark. They got the power bats. They're home. Mm-hmm. They're home and away. That's the advantages for them. So we have all seen the Cardinals go into Cincinnati and come away the loss, but last inning home run, bottom of the ninth. Like you said, Votto's the guy. I mean, how could you not root for that guy? He had many options that he could have been traded to winning teams, and he said, "I'm going to stay here. This is my team." So you got to like that in the guy.
Yeah.
Yep. A lot of character. A lot of people dislike it, but he does his job right. That's for sure.
Yeah, plays the game the right way, doesn't complain, but you think of all the guys that have come and gone, Brandon Phillips and all those guys that were around before that have long since gone, and he's still there wearing, trying to get the big red machine moving, and it just hasn't been happening.
Well, he's that.
I think Cincinnati is like the hardest team to judge in the league on, if they play up to expectations. I think they could, give Milwaukee a run for second place in the division, but it's kind of tough. I mean, I've got them a game under 500, but them and the Cubs are both going to be kind of that middle of the pack, but could take off because they do have some talent that can jump up and get a win streak going.
Yeah, I think Reds are starting pitcher short. I think of really worrying the Brewers. But
yeah, or two, yeah. And then if their bullpen gets injured, these guys could disappear easy, I think.
Yeah, the trade for their closer, that was the one that I scratched my head. I never understood why they made that trade with the Angels at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with I don't know if Castellanos has no trade protection or whatever, but I could see them definitely moving him, or if Sean Doolittle reinvents himself and becomes a good closer, you could definitely see them maybe trading those two guys at the trade deadline if they're playing well, or even Moustakis, somebody that's looking for a bat. If they're performing well individually. And Chris, I know you had the favorite team of everyone, our number one rival,
Right. Oh, they were fun to look at. The Chicago Cubs, looking at the departures that they had, losing Kyle Schwarber, Yu Darvish, John Lester, Jeremy Jeffries, Jose Quintana, Albert Amora, that's a lot of departures and not much coming back. Jock Peterson was their big sign of the offseason, but they do still have Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant on the corners, which is a pretty good duo. They do have a Gold Glover and Javi Baez coming back. Looking just up and down their lineup, Contreras behind the plate with Austin Romine as their backup. You got Rizzo at first, Bryant or David Bodie playing third base. Depends on if they move Bryant to play a little left field. Jock Peterson in the outfield, Ian Happ. They did sign Jake Marisnik and Cameron Maben. So they've got those guys in the outfield. And, of course, our former Cardinal, Jason Hayward. But that, rounds out their bats. There's really nothing that last season was hard to judge. Everybody kind of had some off seasons on their batting averages, but everybody kind of seemed to be dropping down. Pitching wise, they're kind of hurting in my eyes on their starting rotation. They did get Jake Arrieta back. They got Zach Davies in the Yu Darvish trade. They've got Kyle Hendricks, who kills us. The guy he's a lot better against us than I think he actually is. They have Trevor Williams and Alec Mills rounding out their rotation. Still got Kimbrel as their closer. It's just kind of looking at what the USA Today had them predicted at 82-80 record. And I just kind of went a game under that. I think they're a 500 team, 81-81. And that's them and Cincinnati both. Like I said just a second ago, I think they both, if they played up to expectations, they could give the Brewers a run for their money on second place. But there's just a lot of things that have to go right for those guys. Nothing that scares me as far as the Cardinals need to look at those guys repeating as National League Central champs, especially losing that much. I think they were the team that had the most departures this season that really affects their team. They were more in sell mode than getting better.
Yeah, and they're still being surrounded by Chris rumors of Contreras or even Bryant being traded away, which I think if the team falls off, that you can see that being a possibility as well.
Yeah, there was rumors this offseason of Bryant getting traded to the Nationals and Contreras being shopped too. And like you said, if they fall off early, I see the Cubs doing that, selling off on those guys. I just don't see Peterson coming over and being their saving grace. They'll get the team over the hump when they've lost that many players. And as far as the rotation, there's arms that can have a good day, but to hold up over 162 game season, that's putting a lot of expectation on Arrieta to be the pitcher that he used to be. And Zach Davies is a quality pitcher, but he's nobody that I think is going to be more than a 13 game winner for the Cubs. So as much as this division beats up on each other a lot, Chicago, if they get hot, they might give us a run for being second place, but I've got them at the middle of the pack, third place in the division.
Yeah. Matt, did you have something you wanted to throw out?
I pretty well agree with that evaluation, but I think that they're going to be a little further back than that. Not quite as few, as many wins, but they'll be behind first, round 500 probably.
Yeah.
You know who makes about 1.5 million more than Trevor Bauer a year?
I have no idea.
Jason Hayward.
The entire Pirates roster this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Not kidding.
That's probably true.
that's unreal.
They
That's
more than Trevor Bauer does, their entire roster.
wow.
Crazy if you think about it.
But back to the Cubs. Which Rizzo do we get? I think that's their key this year's Rizzo. And Baez, he's such I don't know. That guy's all over the place. One year he hits 300, next year he's swinging at the dirt. So I think he's the defensive or offensive version of Carlos Martinez.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting comparison, but I can see it for sure.
I know we each kind of covered each team in the division, but how do you guys stack up if you give your predictions? And they don't have to be exact records, but I've got mine written down of what I think the division will look like. And I think the Cardinals take the division at 91-71. I think the Brewers finished second with an 84 and 78 record. I think Chicago falls 500, 81 and 81. And the Reds are right behind them at 80 and 82 with Pittsburgh 60 wins, 102 losses. How do you guys kind of round out how you see the division falling?
I got the Cardinals at 92 and 68. Is that right? No. Brewers at 88, 70. Cubs at 80 and 81. Got the Reds at 75 and 85, and the Pirates at 58 and 103.
I mean, I think the Cardinals win 87 games probably, and I think they beat out the Brewers. I think the Brewers somewhere maybe around the 84, 85 maybe. And I think that's the Reds with third place. Someplace in the, I would say 74, 75 wins. And then the Cubs, then after that, the Cubs, you're lucky if they break even. I mean, it just is what it is. And I mean, do we really count the Pittsburgh Pirates? I mean, seriously, they sent them down to AAA and let them play. But I'm looking at the 2021 standings from MLB, the look, and this is the funny thing is their prediction. Oh, I just passed it. Sorry. The Brewers with an 89 and 73, the Cubs 85 and 77, the Cardinals 81 and 81, the Reds 79 83, and the Pirates 61 and 101. That's MLB. That's what they're predicting this season to be.
So the Pirates have uniforms and everything.
That's what I heard. They don't match.
I think a lot of it's just going to depend on our big two with Arenado and Goldschmidt, and if those guys perform and play well and complement each other, then the team's going to do extremely well. I think it may even be closer to a 97, 98 win team if everything clicks, because it's like we talked about with the pitching too. We've got a lot of unproven guys, but we've got a lot of talent. There's a lot that could take place there and a lot can happen. And with guys being injured, we're going to have we're at 39 on the 40 man. Then you put Hudson on the 60 day. That puts us at 38. I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody like a Zach Thompson, probably before Livertor, but like Zach Thompson get a call up, and he's a high end prospect, and just throwing him out there in the rotation and seeing what happens. It's kind of a all in year for us because it's guaranteed to have Waino and Yachty back next year. Are not going to happen. The division is weak, so we're primed to make a run. So I hope we do well. But I don't have like pen to paper. I've never done that myself. I don't know why, being a baseball fan, but I've never like put down what I think people are going to do. I think you guys are right on with Pittsburgh. We're losing 100 games. That makes sense. I think the Cubs and the Brewers and Reds battle it out, and they're probably all within 10 games of each other. I think the Cardinals win the division by a good 12 games. That would be my guess. I hope so, anyways.
I know we're being optimistic in saying that, but I mean the Cardinals they've got so many arms that I think that's going to be the telltale sign a lot. Even though they're young guys and inexperienced, they've just got so many different weapons that they can throw out there that taxi squad wise, I don't think this team's going to tire out. Every team had to battle that short season last year, but I think the Cardinals have a lot of weapons that might not be household names for fan bases, but we've got a pretty good idea of what we've got. I like what I see out of a lot of our young guys.
I look at the division as a whole, and I say, if certain players go down for each team, who do they have that next call up person? I mean, Milwaukee, if they lose a Yelich, who's going to replace that production? I mean, we've seen what happened last year when he went down, or 2 years ago. Then even like if the two corner infielders for the Cubs project like they have in the past, the last couple of years, their season's over. If the Reds struggle, they're in trouble. They have no pitching. The Cardinals, I mean, the detrimental to the Cardinals right now, I think, honestly, is what if one of our two corner infielders go down? I mean, I think that's the one spot. But I think even now we've seen that we do have players that can at least hit the ball. And we're not really, I mean, I don't want to say we're not dropping off from a Goldie to one of these other first basemen, but it's not as severe as them losing Yelich or Suarez or one of those guys going down for the other teams.
Well, I don't think other than Arenado, our batting has improved much. I think we're still going to have a lot of guys that are unproven. So, but other teams having weaker pitching, like we talked about, are going to hopefully make our bats appear to be better than they are. We were last, in home runs last year, and we haven't done anything to really change that. I think you have to let O'Neill play. I'm hoping DeYoung gets his confidence going. He's going to have less pressure on him with Arenado and Goldschmidt. So hopefully he swings the bat a little better and starts knocking the ball to the park. Hopefully Carlson performs. Carlson hasn't looked as well in spring training, but like we said, sometimes you can't really. I usually look at spring training for more the battles, position battles, like who's going to take this last spot or who's going to do that. But hopefully Carlson comes out and performs well, better than his 100 batting averages right now. So, and he'll have improved confidence this year, I think. So, hopefully everything works out well and we come out swinging, and the opposing pitching helps us do that. And if the other team doesn't have a lead, you don't have to worry about some of these closers like Sean Doolittle and Josh Hader and stuff. If they don't have the lead, you're probably not going to see those guys a whole lot.
Yeah, that was one thing with the Cardinals last season, that the pitchers carried such a workload that they almost went out to the mound expecting they had to pitch a shutout in order to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when the team is that bulimic and not giving you any run support, that weighs on a pitcher's mind as much as it does their arm. And that didn't really get addressed much. I know Arenado is going to make a little bit of a difference, and we do have high hopes for some of the young bats turning it around. But they are going to have to score some runs for these pitchers, because that's the one thing that I think taxed a lot of the arms that we had last season. And we did have a good bullpen and good starting pitching, but they can't be perfect every outing, and it's unfair to ask them to be. So the offense got to get the ball rolling, got to get some points on the board.
Yeah, but this year though, the one difference we have is that the defense is so much better. So those guys don't, even if they give up the dribbler or whatever, it goes down third base, it's going to be fielded for an out. We know the outfield is probably one of the best defensive outfields, and lack of hitting wise, we don't know about what's going to happen there. But like you said, if Carlson hits and O'Neill hits, we can carry that Bader hitting 200, So I think that's the biggest difference. I think Edman at second base is going to be the key, I think, a lot of this year for us, because if he doesn't perform anywhere, I mean, I'm not going to say he's Gold Glove caliber as Wong was, but let's say 90% of what Wong did. If he's at 60% of Wong, then we're in trouble.
Yeah,
I think go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
I'm a little worried about Edmund, and I know you guys look at me like I'm, but it's just he's getting a lot put on him pretty early in his career. And to be the starting second base, I'm not saying he can't do it. I mean, I love his energy and everything, but I don't know. It would have been nice to have a veteran presence there, turning the double plays. And I liked him. I like him better as a utility guy, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I said that last year too. I think he had a lot put on him, and it showed that his bat got quiet. He's made a couple of
Seemed to get frustrated.
easy defensive plays. He was making some errors there toward the season, and I think a lot of it was moving around or maybe overconfidence. But I think he'll have a pretty good rebound this year. I am concerned he hasn't been playing as much. Carp's been playing a lot of second, and Edmund hasn't been playing much at all. And Carlson hasn't been playing much at all either. And I don't really know the logic behind that, because those guys need at bats to get their timing and get active, and spring training's already been cut short. So I'd like to see our starters playing more. We've still got 2.5 weeks, so maybe we'll see as they start to make cuts, getting more time. But I definitely would like to see them get some repetitions and see what's going to actually happen with the roster and let it take shape. But Edmund will be interesting. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be a bad player. Like Larry, he's not going to be like Wong, but I don't think he's going to hurt us, and I think he gives us a little more flexibility with the bat. But Colton looked good last year. I'm still upset about Colton Wong.
I would be more concerned, like Matt is, had Edmund not played last year. Had they just thrown him into second base this year, I'd be more concerned. The fact that he's this is basically really his third season on the roster. So he's got those at bats under him. Again, I don't know. It's very weird that they don't have those guys playing more, but maybe Schultz's idea is that, like you said, over the next 2.5 weeks, that's when the Carps start taking the back seat, the Deans, the Thomases. You start running that normal roster out there, especially with Bader being, the creaky back or whatever the heck they called it this week. Maybe they're just precautions that, with the colder temperatures, maybe they're worried about them getting injured or something. And so get those at bats early and then shift them to the backfields and let these guys play more consistently. Lead into the season, you're on a hot streak. Here's your roster. Here's your order. Let's go.
Yeah, even though it might be more than a year away, it might be interesting to see two Nolans in the infield with Gorman taking second. I know that's probably not going to happen this season, but if he can start mashing down in the minors this season, you never know. Two Nolans in a lineup's better than one.
Yeah, I mean, Edmonds still, I wanted to look it up just to make sure, but he still hasn't played a full season, even between, because he came up late in 2019, and then last year was a short season. He's only played in 147 games and had 530 at bats, so it's basically a full season for a normal starter. And in that time, he's got 16 home runs, 62 RBIs, 32 walks, 109 strikeouts, batting 283, on base percentage of 337. And so far this spring, he is hitting 364, but he's only had 11 at bats. So I mean, the guy's played in 3 games basically.
Yeah, I love his energy.
Yeah, but we don't see what he's done in the backfields either, though.
Yeah, they got all these A and B games. It's hard to follow.
Yeah, Hicks is supposed to make his debut Saturday. I mean, not Saturday, tomorrow.
Friday, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, tomorrow.
It's going to be in a B game.
Oh.
Won't be televised, but he's supposed to pitch. He's faced live hitters twice, and he's supposed to actually pitch in that game tomorrow.
So by live hitters, that doesn't count Matt Carpenter, right? Because he's
live.
Far
he's live. He's just not a hitter.
Carpenter needs to be hitting off the tee, I think.
Yeah, and I know I touched on this last night too, just to get these guys a bit. When you see Matt Carpenter swing, does it not look like he's got either a broken rib or not getting any kind of extension? That's when he decides to swing. That's been the most concerning thing. I'm not a pitch or hitting instructor, but just to see him go out there, it looks like he's grimacing every time he takes a cut. He is seeing too many pitches, but in spring training, who cares if you strike out, swing the bat, and he's, still eyeballing pitches. And what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Where it's his back, the way he walks with that arched back, and even, getting ready up in the batter's box. I've had 5 back surgeries. I know that's how you walk when you get a screwed up back. It's just how you get most comfortable. It would explain a lot of things. If it was bothering him enough that he couldn't get a good swing in, but not bothering him enough that he wanted to put the brakes on his career, because that's what you're going to be doing if they cut your back open. You're a baseball player.
Right.
But,
I mean, across the board, I think just watching him, there's no level swing to his swing anymore. I think if you go back to when he was hot, when he was hitting all over and spraying the ball, it was more of that level consistency. Now it's always that uppercut. And then it looks like he drops down. And like you said, we're not professionals. We don't claim to be the next, hitting instructor for anybody, but that's what it looks like to me. And like Matt said, he's going up there all the time. It's always like he's stretching his back out all the time. And so that's always bothered me. I always thought maybe he just got a disc problem or something,
Yeah.
Maybe just always tight. To me, it looks like his hips. His hips used to snap through the zone more, especially the year he had all them doubles. I don't remember what year that was. Now he doesn't really do that. He just kind of, it doesn't feel like he's fluid when he swings the bat. Not that I'm a hitting instructor by any means, but he definitely doesn't look the same, and he doesn't look as comfortable. He almost looks scared, like Chris had mentioned before, like he's looking for a walk, like he's thinking, oh man, I hope they walk me here so I don't have to try to hit and do something. And I can't believe, for the life of me, the only thing I can't figure out with him is how he cannot hit the ball to left field. It just blows my mind. He They put that monster shift on him, and he hits into it every single time. And that's one thing I liked about Wong last year. Wong was hitting to all fields. He was hitting to left field, and he looked really good. He wasn't trying to hit for power. And so it felt like, to me, last year, Wong was starting to click all around. His defense had already been there, and it looked like his bat was coming as far as being able to spray the ball and hit to all fields. And I just can't see why Carp has not figured that shit out yet. He's supposed to be an all-star ball player, and he hasn't been able to do that.
The good thing is maybe Wong peaked last year. He's on the downside now.
I think he's gonna do well for Milwaukee. I think he's gonna do very well, and we're gonna be pissed. And he's gonna make a couple of good plays against us to where he takes hits away, and everyone's gonna be on the page saying, "Oh, I can't believe we traded him. If we had Void at first, Wong at second, Arozarena in center."
Yeah. Trade Nolan Arenado back. We need Austin Gomber back.
Yeah, if Gomber was our ace, everyone's going to be, why didn't we trade
where's
Flaherty?
Kelly? Where's Kelly behind the plate? Don't forget Kelly and Weaver. And
yeah. I think Kelly's going to do okay. He did okay. He actually did okay. He did decent for Arizona last year. I think he'll get more comfortable. But I could definitely see us in the middle of this year, if we're playing well, trying to make a run. Kinsner is going to be on that list of people to be traded.
I did forget to mention one of the guys on the Cubs roster, former Cardinal Shelby Miller, might get some playing time. Either they're getting a spot start or in the bullpens. But he's kind of making a push in spring training to make the club. So, there might be some Cardinal fans out there wanting Shelby Miller back, for crying out loud.
The two guys traded for each other on the same team.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Shelby can throw it to him in the outfield because he can't throw it to anybody else.
And Hayward isn't going to be able to hit it.
The Pirates broke a record last year, and it's probably one that will stand forever. Completed the season with the least number of wins, 14.
Oh, because of the short season?
I don't see anybody breaking that record.
I thought you were going to say they broke their prior year's attendance because it was COVID.
They had 5 people there.
They were counting the cardboard people.
What was the joke that the Marlins announced they're allowed 15% in the stands, and the guy said Jeter's shooting for an increase.
Yeah. Again, I saw the Cubs and the White Sox are like 20%, so the Cardinals are at 30-some%. So maybe that frees up a little more money. They can kind of start to budget and say, this is how we're going to start the season. Maybe we'll have a little more money come in. So trade deadline will be interesting, especially with the division being weaker. If we're playing like how we should be and we're rolling well, I could definitely see him making a move, because I think the team realizes this is kind of an important year, not just for the team but for the fan base. With Yachty and Waino potentially being their last year, depending on how things shake out. But I think if we're in a good position, they're going to make a run.
So when do you think? I mean, because my biggest fear is that 2022 is going to be a lockout or a strike year, and especially with everything going on this year. So are teams, you think, looking and saying, let's trade early? I mean, are they to save money? I mean, if you're the Cubs and you're 15 games out June 2nd, are you trying to trade and dump players that early, or are you going to wait till July 1st, or,
Chris?
No, I think that's probably what'll happen. They'll be wanting to move some players early. It's kind of a hit and miss with some of these teams that are. Can they make that run? But if they're that far out at that point, yeah, I can see them going ahead and giving up on some players early.
Yeah, I think I'm the only guy that's not concerned with a strike or a lockout year. I don't see that happening at all, and I honestly don't think teams are going to be thinking about that when they're making moves. There's too much money in the game now, especially after COVID, and everybody took a hit. I don't see nobody wanting this to stop, because they're still having huge contracts, and a strike or a lockout year is going to really hurt value, not just for teams, but for players getting those big contracts coming back. Nobody's going to want to pay it out. We've already seen it with COVID. I think they find a way to make things work. I think it'll be an interesting back and forth off season for sure. There'll be a lot to pay attention to, but I think they get something done. I don't see them not playing, and I think teams are going to make moves depending on as if they're going to be playing. I think it's year to year, just like with everything. That's why I was so vocal about next year if the team's not doing well, or to trade Jack Flaherty because he's obviously going to test free agency.
So my next question would be: so you think we could give up Baker, Bader, and Ponce de Leon? We can get Trevor Story from Colorado. I mean, that's an improvement over what we got for Arenado.
Colorado's probably done talking to us for a while.
Yeah, they're going to be pissed. But the longer you keep guys, that's my hope. Longer you keep guys, like there's a lot of weak catchers out there. Even like Matt said earlier, Jacob Stallings is a good catcher, but would they rather have someone like Kinsner? Of course. So I think the longer we keep someone like Kinsner on the bench, he's Carson Kelly 2.0. His value just continues to drop if he's not playing, and he shouldn't be playing because Yadier Molina is still one of the best catchers in the game, in my opinion, especially defensively and his ability to handle the staff and control the tempo of a game. But Kinsler is doing you no good sitting on that bench, and you've got other players that are going to be out of options soon, like Sosa. So are you going to keep DeYoung long term? Is Sosa going to be a permanent bench player? It depends on some of these other guys. Is Gorman going to be able to transition to another position, or should you float him because he's probably a year or so away? You've got Arenado for the next foreseeable future.
So because I think most of us are we looked at it a couple weeks ago anyway, the pitching depth. Moving forward, say that Flaherty goes or whatever, we have enough there. But next year, the big market is there's 5 major all-star shortstops coming out in free agency next year? Because we know Lindor's not going anywhere. He's a Met. Watching the game today, that's all they talked about was how happy he is to be in New York, and they're going to sign him long-term. We know that. They didn't make that trade to let him walk.
With the new ownership having a lot of money, they're going to make it.
And they have the money. So you're looking at, 4 other potential shortstops that could be on the move. And is Colorado going to offer Trevor Story a bunch of money to stay? Second, is he going to take it knowing that his best friend left because they weren't building around like they said they would? So, and if you're the Cardinals, are you looking to maybe upgrade the position at shortstop?
I don't know. I think a lot of that depends again on maybe what Paul DeYoung does this year.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, a lot of it depends on, DeYoung. He's a good bat, and really he's a damn good glove. He just gets, I think, wore out as the season goes on, and he's very streaky. I mean, there's like a good month or so where he's, right under a 300 hitter, and then he goes flat where he's, busting his ass to be a 200 hitter. So as long as he can be a little more consistent at the plate, and he might benefit a little bit with Arenado being in this lineup, getting slotted in, a little pressure off him. But defensively, I think the same thing. Arenado takes a lot off the plate. For him to defensively, he can handle short. When Carpenter was a third, I'm sure he's going to make the play with Arenado over there as well.
Yeah, so we have to remember DeYoung is not a new player to the team. I mean, he came up in 2017 and played in a lot of games, and I think he got hot for a while and it went to his head, and I think he tried to put a little too much pressure on himself. But I'd like to see him play well, but he's been up for a few years now, so I mean, the kind of wait and see with him is over. I hope he has a good year, and I hope he is able to relax a little bit and perform. Go ahead, Larry.
So are you saying that Herrera steps in next year as the starting catcher? Because Yachty's on a 1-year deal. If him and Wayne are gone, does Herrera step in as the starting catcher next year?
Well, Herrera's definitely our top prospect on the team,
right?
As far as that goes, I think he's already surpassed Kinsner, but they're just not going to say that publicly. If something happens and Yachty doesn't come back, I could see them. If Kinsner is not on the team, if we trade him away, I could definitely see them signing someone for a year or so with Herrera being a backup. But I wouldn't bank a lot of money on Yachty not coming back next year.
Yeah, we've all learned that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like, I want to see what's next too. But if he still is able to perform and play well, I mean, catchers are tough to find, especially good ones. I'd like to see what Kinsler can do, but he's already, in his late 20s. He's already, he's approaching that age of, or mid 20s at least. He's at that age now to where you can't figure it anymore. He's 20. He's 26. I just looked it up. He's 26. I mean,
I hate to be a prospect on this Cardinals team, and I'd love to be a prospect on the Pirates team or Miami.
Play.
Yeah.
They'll put you out there.
Well, the popcorn guy gets to start third base this year sometime.
That's it. If you buy a theme night ticket, you get to be third baseman for 2 innings.
Well, second baseman because I got Hayes at third. So
yeah. But I can see someone picking up someone like him, or even trading someone away like a Helsley or someone of that nature. Because we talked about this too. We have basically 4 catchers on it, or not catchers, 4 closers, potential closers on a team that other teams would love to have, like a Cincinnati or Pittsburgh or someone that if they had like a Helsley or Gallegos, Andrew Miller, any of those guys can close.
Yeah, I mean, trading within the division's a little tough, but yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of pieces that if there's something dangling out there for us to get over the hump, I could see Mazzei like making a move, especially with the log jam that we've got with the amount of arms that we have.
Yeah. And you just never know. We might have a ton of arms and needing place to play, or we have a couple injuries. Next thing you know, guys don't perform, and we're like crap. But I definitely think if we make a move, they'll trade for a pitcher somewhere. That'll always be our move.
Yeah,
seems to be. Yeah,
we can't get rid of Bader. He's too solid. He's too good.
Got nice hair.
Beautiful hair.
He's the reverse Chris Lawless.
Oh yeah. Imagine Bader with this beard.
Was it just me, or did anybody else see his cap line up all the time last year?
Yep,
that was on purpose. I want to show off the box.
Loose so it flies off, and he can show those, flowing locks to all the ladies and stuff.
He does it intentionally.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
looking for a shampoo commercial endorsement or something. I don't know.
Randall Gritchick used to do that too. His hat would seem to fall off and have to flip it back. They're like the great value version of Bryce Harper.
The great value version.
It looks like you're running faster if you drop your hat.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I came out of the batter's box and I threw my hat.
I would just tell him, hey, if your helmet falls off again, I'm putting a damn chin strap on there.
Yeah.
Good luck. Give him a motorcycle helmet. That's all I had for topics for today. Chris, do you have anything in closing?
No, I just it's good to finally have Matt join us for a show. Glad to have Larry back this week, and going over. I was kind of a little surprised Larry didn't have anybody winning 90 games in the division, but I think we're all on the same page. Cardinals are taking the division. I hope we're all right on that. I'm glad everybody's tuned in and subscribed over the last month, and it's the podcast has really been picking up, so that's great, and appreciate all you guys again.
Yeah, you too. Yeah, thanks to Matt for joining us, and Larry's back for our weekly show. Yesterday, in case you missed it, we did a live show. We're going to try to do it. I think we're kind of discussing throwing around once a month. Conversation with the Nation is what we're going to call it. We'll do a live show and take fans from people from the Facebook page and group, and also YouTube Live, and have a guest or two come in where we talk Cardinals baseball and get some outside opinions, so you're not always hearing our voices. We're going to still continue to do this every week. Hopefully Matt will be able to join us again and get some of the other guys on at some point in time. But that show yesterday was live. Check it out. It's already up. You can find it on Facebook or on YouTube. Chris has his audio show, Cardinal Cuts with Chris Lawless. You can find it on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I do one called Redbird's Red Wine, which has a minor league focus. So you can find it in the same platforms. Larry does insurance in Indiana. He's better than Jake. That Jake guy's bullshit.
Pound for pound, I'm the better insurance broker.
Pound for pound. I'll go with that. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks to Matt, Larry, Chris. If that's all, I guess we'll shut it down and we'll just say go Cards.
Go Cards.
Good.